Okay, 5, 5. We're supposed to find this out. Now, just for our information here, if this was y equals the square root of 4 minus x squared, squared both sides, add x squared to both sides. You should recognize this as a circle of radius 2. So, and since it's this form, it's the square root, which is the positive half, so it's this. And so this says, what's the area under this curve from 0 to x? Well, at 0, it's 0, and then it keeps getting less and less. So g of 0, what's the area under the curve at 0? Well, from 0 to 0, it's 0. From 0 to 2, it'd be a quarter of the area of this circle. Now this is pi r squared is the area, r is 2, so this is 4 pi. So this would be 1 pi. Now, g prime. Well, this is g prime right in there. So if we plug in 0, we get, because the integral of this is g, so that's g prime in there. So put in 0 in there, and we get 4 minus 0 squared, which is 4. Square root of 4 is just 2. And if we put 1 in there, we get the square root of 3. This is g prime. It's a function with respect to t, and this big thing, all of it, is the area under the curve is this. That's g. 15. Write this as a function. Well, integrate sine of u, that's negative cosine of u, evaluated from 0 to x, which would be negative cosine x minus a minus, which would be plus cosine of 0, and the cosine of 0 is 1, so this is 1 minus cosine x. 37. So now this fundamental theorem of calculus number 2 takes effect. We're taking the derivative of the integral, so we get right back to this function. Oh, this was t dt. So we put the x squared in for the t, and we get tangent of x squared. But the chain rule says when we're taking the derivative, this is in t, this is in x, we have to take the derivative of the inside, which is 2x. That's the upper limit, minus, now we put in the lower limit, so that would be tangent of the square root of x, but times the derivative of the inside, so square root of x is x to the 1/2, so its derivative is 1/2 x to the minus 1/2, which is 1 over 2 square root of x. Okay, lots of questions on 39 through 42, and we did 39 and 40 in class, but I'll do it again. I'm going to do 41 and 42 for those of you who want to know how to do that. Okay, 39, a of x. That's the area under the this curve. This is f of x here, f of t, or f of x, from 0 to x. So the area starts out from 0 to 0 would be 0. Go to here, we get 1, because this area is 1. This is a quarter. They're both on the negative side, so it's negative, and this is a quarter. 1, 1, a quarter, and a negative quarter, and negative 1. So, doing the area on this, the area is 0, goes to negative 1, then it goes to negative 1 1/4, That's pretty low, -1 1/4. Then it goes to -1 and back to 0 to 1 to 1 1/4. That's the most positive. Then it starts losing again back to 0. So the minimum was -1 1/4, and the maximum was right here where it had gotten up to 1 1/4. Now, if we're doing b of x, and b of x starts at 2, then if we go 2 to 0, that's doing the limits backwards, so that changes the signs of the area. So if we go clear back to here, 2 to there, this would be a -1/4 plus 1/4, which is 0 plus 1, because we're doing the limits backwards. So we're going to start with a total area of 1 and go down to 0. So this one's going from 1 to 0 here to here. And then it goes to, when we get to here, we're at -1/4. 1/4. And then and now we're going on the right direction. So these are going to be positive. So it's going to be -1, -1. Okay, this is 1, and these cancel out. So we start at 1. When we go to here, these cancel out. We get to 0. When we get to here, we're at -1/4. Then when we get to here, we're back to 0. Then we get, these are arrows, not minus signs. And then from here to here, we're going to be to 1. And then to here would be 2 and 2 1/4. And then we're going to lose the quarter and then lose 1, so it'd be back to -1. So we got to a maximum of 2 1/4 and a minimum of, let's see, the minimum was -1/4 here. We are up here, 2 1/4. Oh, wait a minute. This is 1. Those cancel. This gets us 2, 3 1/4. 3 1/4. I forgot the 1 here. 3 1/4. 2, 3. We're at 1, 2, 3 1/4, and then we go down. So it's 3 1/4, and the minimum was 3 1/4. Our low spot was -1/4 right here. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. This was, thinking about this again here. 1 1/4 minus 1/4 is 1. Lose 1/4, that's 3/4. And then this takes off that. So then we're to 0. 1 1/4 and minus 1/4 is, we're starting at 1. We lose the 1. We're at a 1 1/4 minus 1/4, so we're at 1. We lose the 1. We're at 0. We're at -1/4. Yeah, -1/4. So it is -1/4. -1/4 is correct. And then it goes up. Okay. Had to rethink that one again. This is a little tricky problem. I have to think about it. Okay, from 2 to 4. 2 to 4, what's the formula for the area of A? Well, we had -1. These canceled out, so we had a total of -1 by 2. So we had -1. And then as x increases, we increase. So if we go x minus 2, that's kind of where we're starting at here. Then when x becomes 1, this would be 1, and we'd add 1 to 1, and we'd be at 0. And when we get to 4, this would be 2, and 2 plus the minus 1. 2 plus the minus 1 is what we actually have, because this is minus, these are canceled, this is plus 1, so that's 0 plus 1 is what we'd get if we put 4 into this. 4 minus 2 is 2, minus 1 is 1. Gives us the correct amount. For B, from 2 to 4, since we started here, for 2 to 4, B right here is plus 1. And then we're going to go plus x minus 2, because we have 1 right here. Plus 1 plus a quarter minus a quarter, so we're at plus 1. And then when B becomes 1, we get 2. So if you put 1 in, put 3 in there, when we go to plus 3, that's adding 1 to 1, that's 2. And when we put 4, we get that. So those are kind of how to think about those. This section's kind of tricky. First, we're adding area, and then we're subtracting area. And this is linear, so it's a quadratic. And a quadratic will add area, and then we have to have it subtract area. So if we do a parabola that goes this way, it'll add area, and then the area will decrease. So A at 4, we're up to this, that, and that cancel. So we're up to 1. And then we're doing minus. And then we're going to do x. The center of this parabola is at 4.5. So when I put in 4, I get, I want to put in 1, and right here would be 1 1/4. So if I put in 4, I get 4 minus 4 1/2 is a half. Squared is a quarter. 1 minus a quarter would be 1. That gets me the right amount there. Then if I put in 4 1/2, then I get 0 here, and so I got 1 1/4 minus 0, which is what I have right there. And then when I get to here, I put in 5, and 5 minus 4 1/2 is a quarter, is a half. Squared is a quarter, so I have 1 1/4 minus a quarter, which is back to 1, which is what I should have because these two cancel. And for B, now I just have to adjust the difference. A to here was 1, and B to there was 1. These cancel. And then this becomes 2, 3. So I want 3 1/4 minus that. Okay.